mobare Karaka mondo Achalanga moni ndo kanyo
Yawa kaleo tachalanga mobare Karaka mondo tachalanga moni ndo kanyo Yawa
Kaleo achalanga mobare Kamondo achalanga moni ndo kanyo
Yawa kimondo tichalanga moni ndo kanyo Kaleo bichalanga mobare
Kaleo achalanga mobare Kamondo achalanga moni ndo kanyo
Yawa kimondo bichalanga moni ndo kanyo Arabileo tichalanga mobare Ibari abara
Kaleo achalanga mobare Kamondo achalanga moni ndo kanyo
Radikileo bichalanga moni ndo kanyo Harakileo bichalanga mobare kokumu Ileo tichalanga mobare Harakimondo
achalanga moni ndo kanyo
Yawa kimondo bichalanga moni ndo kanyo Harakileo kiwacho ni ibari Ileo achalanga mobare Yawa kamondo
achalanga moni ndo kanyo
Justo pileo bichalanga mobare Beti ileo tichalanga moni ndo kucho Beti
Kaleo achalanga mobare Kamondo achalanga moni ndo kanyo
Kimondo bichalanga moni ndo kanyo Harakileo bichalanga mobare Orogra
Kaleo achalanga mobare Kamondo achalanga moni ndo kanyo
Uginya penjere ya penja Wono dero no langara chepu ya mane
Langara chipi obanda
Sami ya jipenjere ya penja Nyagwendo kodero no langara chepu ya mane
Langara chipi obanda
Uganda jipenjere ya penja Ulo penjere no langara chepu ya mane
Langara chipi obanda Puyo obanda kangoa obanda paka marida Wala chingwa nikama moga moda kondi chuore Utieno kajinindo Ugolo banda Ayayo banda kangoa obanda paka marida
Ugola iniora
Ugolo banda Iniora Ugolo banda
Janga wada lobe iniora
Ugolo banda Iniora Ugolo banda Ayayo banda kangoa obanda paka marida
Ugola wada bibi yange osiro moro
Nilongo bama
Janga wada omi yange osiro moro
Nilongo bama
Ugola wada kai mi yange osiro moro
Nilongo bama Gima waro bama
Aha
Gima waro bama Tokenyo moyo leo ni lingani nyeo Tokenyo moyo leo ni lingani nyeo
Magana ni kao longa dako Tiri woko diko di chodonge emeru wako Bunga to buku uoni ni
Rafiki yangu
Yani
Rafiki yangu
Ani
Rafiki yangu Hiyo natosa wewe sawa sawa ya kupima Tokarane ni kao longa dako Kara emeru wako aworo tochiro bama
Mosna welo gite
Jambo Wageni wetu
Salamia wageni wote
Jambo Wageni wetu
Kiswahili yawa
Habari Wageni wetu
Kiswahili tena kido
Habari Wageni wetu natoka nchi ya mbali Karibuni Kenya Kenya yetu ni Kenya kuna amani Kenya yetu ni Kenya kuna amani Tunapenda watu wote
Ndugu wa Serena Ndugu wote Serena
Welcome
Ndugu Kenya yetu ni Kenya kuna amani
Kenya yetu ni Kenya kuna amani Tunapenda watu wote
Yadiga urube ni otoya Yadiga urube ni otoya Adua wero ngato tawero mama Karuwero ngato tawero mama
Yadiga urube ni otoya Yadiga urube ni otoya Karuwero ngato tawero mama Karuwero ngato awero mama
Yawani yadiga urube ni otoya Yadiga urube ni otoya Adua wero ngato tawero nyama Karuwero ngato tawero mama nyarabandu
Yadiga urube ni otoya Yadiga urube ni otoya Karuwero ngato tawero mama Karuwero ngato tawero mama
Nila mit mi wuoro Katwane go kombe awinjo kachunya gombo Karatinda era dila
Nila mit mi wuoro
Katwane go kombe awinjo kachunya gombo Katinda era dila Nila mit mi wuoro Katwane go kombe awinjo kachunya gombo Karatinda era dila
Nila mit mi wuoro Ini wuora yo ini orayo kayo chama dongo da kumadhi nyuka gwata nyuka dua madhe jaolano ini orayo
Nadigo Adila mene woro atone go kombe tawinjo kachunya gombo karatinda adila
Adila mene woro itone go kombe awinjo kachunya gombo atinda adila
Ogola banda go nani we
salka weekend
Ogola banda go nani we
salka weekend
Ogola banda go nani we
salka weekend salka weekend
Sijauonja pilipili na maua yake mchikicho
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 Sijauonja pilipili na maua yake mkisi
Sijauonja pilipili na maua yake mchikicho
Na maua yake
mchikicho
na maua yake
mchikicho
Lambwa tika marage yapo jikoni nimeshayapika naongoja sukari ya bwana haijafika
Lambwa tika
marage yako jikoni nimeshayapika naongoja sukari ya bwana haijafika
Lambwa tika marage yapo jikoni nimeshayapika naongoja sukari ya bwana haijafika
Lambwa
tika marage yako jikoni nimeshayapika naongoja sukari ya bwana
haijafika
Kasha langu la zamani kasha ukilifukua lanukia rafofu tamu jodo kasha langu la zamani kasha ukilifungua lanukia karafu
na waridi tamu
kasha langu la zamani kasha ukilifukua lanukia karafu na waridi tamu
kasha langu la zamani kasha ukilifukua lanukia karafu na waridi tamu
kasha langu la zamani kasha ukilifukua lanukia karafu mwana na waridi tamu
kasha langu la zamani kasha ukilifungua lanukia karafu na waridi tamu
jirani usijentonesha kidonda
Vumilia jirani usijentonesha kidonda
Vumilia jirani usijentonesha kidonda
Vumilia jirani usijentonesha kidonda
Daktari yule yuaja daktari huyo yuaja taletia dawa kidonda
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 Singejua na ng'ombe mina ng'ombe zangu namwambia zichanganye hataki haeni naenda zangu
Singejua na ng'ombe na mina ng'ombe zangu namwambia tuchanganye hataki haeni naenda zangu
Singejua na ng'ombe mina ng'ombe zangu namwambia Justo tuchanganye hizi ngoma jamani kwa heri naenda zangu
Singejua na ng'ombe na mimi na ng'ombe zangu, namwambia tuchanganye hataki, kwaheri naenda zangu.
Shakila ana ng'ombe, nina ng'ombe zangu we. Namwambia Akima na zake, Nathan na zake, kwaheri naenda zangu we.
Singejua na ng'ombe na mimi na ng'ombe zangu, namwambia tuchanganye hataki, kwaheri naenda zangu.
Paulo ana ng'ombe, Hilda na zake we. Namwambia wa watu wawili tuchanganye tu, kwaheri mimi naenda zangu we.
Singejua na ng'ombe na mimi na ng'ombe zangu,
Rekete.
namwambia tuchanganye hataki,
Hayo. Shit.
Homnazi,
Watandua.
Homnazi,
Watandua.
Homnazi,
Watandua.
Homnazi,
Watandua.
Homnazi, wakati wa kuchanua.
Chandu.
Aye mama. She.
Wape vidonge vyao,
She.
wakimeza wakitema ni shauri zao jamaa.
Wape vidonge vyao, wakimeza wakitema ni shauri zao.
Wape vidonge vyao,
Sieba.
wakimeza wakitema hadi twende kazi.
Wape vidonge vyao, wakimeza wakitema ni shauri zao. She.
Ona hiyo meli imekuja.
Sala hiyo meli imekuja.
Ona hiyo meli imekuja.
Sala hiyo meli imekuja.
Imekuja na kanga za manjano.
Imekuja na kanga la manjano.
Imekuja na kanga za manjano.
Imekuja na kanga la manjano.
Bei yake shilingi 200.
Bei yake shilingi 200.
Waiona leo ina madirisha hiyo. Waiona leo na madirisha hiyo. Sautu. Come. Kata mwanangu kata usiogope kata mwanangu kata msiogope kata nyinyi wote kata msiogope
kata jisto kata
Hello Shit. Finale.
Hey, finale.
Hey, asante.
Thank you very much. Another hand to Wasanii Sanaa Group, who will be back with their energy at the very end of this program. Asanteni sana. Pole nimekata nikaikata pole wakati imeshika, lakini asanteni ndugu na dada wa Wasanii Sanaa Group. You'll be back later on. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Masai. I'll be the master of ceremony as we launch the strategic plan for 2022 to 2028 for TI Kenya. Many of you were here for the Partners Breakfast, so this is not new. I'm not introducing anything new to you, but I'd just like to ask the others who are outside to settle in to the main room as we plan to get started. Time has piga chenga kidogo, so I just asked that everyone settle in. It's almost full house, but I'm told there's a good number of people outside. So if you can hear me and you're outside there, please settle in to your table as you were in the morning, earlier session with the Partners Breakfast. And we'll be starting very soon because we have all our keynote guests and speakers and those who are making remarks and other key partners in this journey who are ready to join us in this room to get started. So in the meantime, there'll be some background music, but we're starting in the next few minutes. Asanteni. Is it? Thank you, DJ Mark. From one mark to another, I'd like to appreciate the presence, and she's just joined us, of the representative of our chief guest. that is Denmark ambassador, who is not able to join us. That is His Excellency Ole Tonke, joined and represented by the Deputy Ambassador, Miss Trine Gronborg. I hope I haven't baptized you, but I'll come to get the right pronunciation. She is our chief guest this morning, and she is also joined by several others. There we have representation from USA. We have Kimberly Ludwig, as well as representation from the Foreign Affairs Ministry in Finland, and that is Anu Ala Rantala, as well as we have, of course, in the building, the chairperson of the TI Kenya board, Mrs. Bernadette Musundi, who has been with us in the morning session and is joining us here at the high table, as well as the executive director of TI Kenya, Sheila Masinde, joined by those who will be giving us short remarks during the program, amongst them the executive director of Uraya Trust, that is Dr. Oliver Waindi, and the executive director of Global Compact Network Kenya, Judy Njino, as well as the Auditor General, CPA Nancy Galongo. It's good to see you, ma'am, this morning. Karibu. And I believe we have the key people in the building, and we will continue to acknowledge those who are joining us as we continue with the program. It is full house, so let us get started as we shall, and in the proper way. And as people settle in, Mrs. Bernadette is here with us. Asante for joining us. I believe everyone is settled. And just in case you would want to answer to the call of nature, it is outside of this room to the right, but there is staff from TI Kenya who have tags and will be able to guide you in case of if you need direction on that. If you may just keep your phone on silent so that you can answer it, you can interact, because as we do this, we have to interact on the interwebs, and that is a digital space, and that is with the hashtag Action for Integrity. And I'll also give you a small exercise of using your gadgets wherever you are, just to show who is represented here. We've heard of USAID, we've heard of the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Finland, we've heard of our representation from Denmark, but we'll also have many other people here who will be able to give their representation of the organization you're here to represent using something called Menti. But before we get to that, let's start properly, as we should, with a prayer in the form of the national anthem. And if we may, let me just inconvenience you for a bit as we rise for that.
Mungu nguvu yetu, ilete baraka kwetu. Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Asanteni, you may be seated. All my days, how did I not acknowledge the presence of David Omoyo, my senior in the profession of media, the Media Council of Kenya CEO. Asante as well for joining us. One of the partners, of course, who are keen on such strategic plans that are being launched by the Transparency International, and that is going to be like the blueprint of them operating in the next 6 years. So it's good to see you, sir, and as well as the rest of you. And I may not call you by name one-on-one or one by one, but this is a way of representing your organization. So if you may, just, I believe all of us have a bit of a smart gadget. So I'm personally Mark Masai, Master of Ceremony here, but you may see the organization that I now represent is a Professional Marketing Services. And this is how you can participate and show us. It won't show your name. It won't show your name. It will be anonymous. But we just want you to participate in this so we can see it live. And I believe we're ready from our IT team. We're good to go. So just go www.menti, that is MENTI.com. And then you will have a code once you're in. Submit. Are we there? People have logged in. What's the code? Everyone is at the page for the code. Good to go? All right, I just entered the 1238. All right, the code here is 59779756. 59779756. And soon you'll be able to see it live here, representing the organization that you will enter there, given the prompt. Are people getting some success? You can raise your hand if you're getting some success. Yes, I see some hands over there, some hands over there, some hands over there. From the high table, Sheila, we know the organization you represent, but just for practice purposes. Anyone else? Yeah, success, success. We should be seeing it very soon now, just to see a representation of where we are from. So, yes. The code is 59779756. And then it'll give you, it'll be like a dialogue box. You can enter who you represent, whether it's government. It's important just to appreciate who has come to witness this launch of the strategic plan. Yes. Yes, it does. You just want to be represented. I believe this is a representation from Finland? From the USA, okay. So you have media, you submit. All right. And don't you worry, your details will be treated with the utmost respect and security, so don't you worry about that. It is not going to be used for other mining purposes of data and what have you, but it's also a way of just appreciating those who have come and who are joining us this morning for this. And all right, so are we good to go? We could probably see it as we continue? Yes, all right. Let's kick it off with just some opening remarks, welcome remarks from our host here at the Serena. That is, if you were here earlier, you had some breakfast, but you had some bitings just before. The Executive Director for the TI Kenya, Transparency International Kenya, Sheila Masinde. Let's give her a hand.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We are having a very exciting event, so we'll need a little bit of more energy. Good morning. Yes, that sounds more like it. Thank you very much, our very worthy partners. When I look across the room, I feel so motivated and uplifted, and I would say that is the same feeling that a lot of my other colleagues feel right now, because we're in a room with many individuals and institutions that have walked a very long journey with us in the last 24 years in our quest for a corruption-free society. So thank you very much for taking your time to be with us for this important occasion, very important for us as Transparency International Kenya. And my role right now is just to make a few welcome remarks. So I welcome you all to this event. I'm going to be shortly giving the podium to our chair, who is our substantial host for the day. That's Mrs. Bernadette Musundi, to make the opening remarks. But as we enjoy this event, I want to work backwards, because ordinarily we would have ended by just recognizing the people who have made this event possible. But I want to do it now so that as you enjoy the event, you know exactly the people who have really worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that this event happens, and you will enjoy it, I promise you. So I'd just like to ask the TI Kenya staff to just stand up right now so that you can know who they are, and in case you need any assistance at any point, you may be able to know who to reach out to. So there are many of them outside, but there are these colleagues also standing here. In case you need any assistance, please feel free to reach out to any of them, and also their colleagues outside. But these are really the people responsible for the work that we've done in the last couple of years, and also for this event today, so we thank them. And right now, I just want to introduce our board chair, Mrs. Bernadette Musundi, to come and make the opening remarks before we continue with the rest of the program. Karibu.
Yeah, I think it's still morning, so allow me to say good morning to all of you. Yeah, as Sheila said, that is a very weak good morning. I could almost invite you to have a cup of tea if you don't have one before you. Yeah, so I'll say again, good morning to you all. Good morning. Yeah, please feel welcome. Once again, some of you have already met you early this morning in the first session of this day of the launch. I now would like to give my speech more or less of the function of today. And this I'm going to basically read rather than talk. The other time I was having friends and we were having very wonderful breakfast together. But this time, more or less the same things, but I'll read out more or less a speech, but spoken from my heart. Yeah. I welcome you all to the launch of Transparency International Kenya chapter strategic plan launch, which will inform our interventions up to September 2028. As I do that, I'm sure you'll be looking at which period am I talking about. Our strategic plan is from 2022 to 2028. That is 6 years. And I'm sure at a later stage, our executive director or one of our officers will be able to inform you. The second thing, please forgive me for not observing the protocols as I should. All of you, please accept my apology for that. But I want to say all our protocols are observed. You have wonderful people around. And if I went one by one, I think we'll finish at 4 o'clock. So in light of that, I beg you all to accept that I recognize your presence here. And I know that some of you are going to have an opportunity to speak to us. And during that time, we can get to know you. And if we get a moment, we'll go around, because we are not that many, for people to mention their names. But we have wonderful partners around and people we collaborate with from various places. Please feel at home and know that I have acknowledged your presence here. And I really appreciate, I don't take it for granted that you are with us this morning. Yeah. Allow me now to put, when we say we are launching a new strategic plan, what does that mean? It means that we have had one which we are moving away from, or we have already left, and we have a new one in place. But first, let me introduce the fact that Transparency International Kenya chapter was born 1999. That is when it was registered. So we're talking about it being 24 years old this year. And that means we've been around in this country for those 20 years, or globally for 24 years. By the way, it is important for you also to note that the idea, the notion of transparency, international, worldwide, globally, originated from Kenya. Kenya is the one where the idea was born. Some gentlemen getting together for dinner and then decided to talk about the need for being accountable and being people of integrity and so on. And they came up with the idea to form Transparent International. Hence, they went off, one of them, Peter Egan, who is from Germany. He was by then working with the World Bank. And he left Kenya, he was posted, I think, back to Germany. And with that idea, he went off and started Transparent International. It was registered way back in 1993. We delayed a bit in registration, so we registered ours in 1999. I just wanted you to have that background so that we are really the owners of Transparent International, because the idea was born in Kenya. It was not just Peter Egan alone. He was with the Kenyans, great men and women who came together for that dinner when they discussed how to set up an international body of this kind. So let us have that at the back of our mind as we talk. In the last 24 years, we have relentlessly fought corruption with our eyes fixed on the ultimate goal of delivering a corruption-free society. In actual fact, we say corruption-free Kenya. We have engaged citizens and stakeholders in both public and private spheres to develop pragmatic, homegrown solutions towards addressing corruption. Further, we have engaged and collaborated with other Transparent International chapters in Africa, in Europe, in Latin America, in Asia and Pacific, as well as developing partners locally and of course abroad, to identify the best practices for the disruption or prevention of corruption. We have incorporated the media as a strategic partner to give credible reports to millions of people and to uncover corruption. In Kenya, we have even been very practical. We have even had journalists trained by TI Kenya so as to be able to give correct, credible reports. Even from the Auditor General's office, for who is here in person. We are very grateful that you are here yourself, personally. We signed an MOU with them so that the wonderful reports that they bring out, that they can be actually disseminated in the right way and that the correct information can be given out there. So we have an MOU standing and we work together in some of our programs. We have provided comprehensive data, information, analytics, and trends on corruption for reflection and action. We have supported development of policies and legislations upon which the fight against corruption has been respectively embedded. We have built the capacity of Kenyans through training and awareness creation and provided corruption monitoring and reporting tools. We have shaped as well as influenced local, national, and international or regional bodies into seeing the need to fight corruption. In these endeavors, we have had a significant success as well as valuable lessons upon which we have anchored the current and the current and the future anti-corruption work in this region. In this journey, as you will expect, we ran when we could, we walked when we had to walk, and we even crawled when this was the only option. But we did not quit. We never gave in. We never gave up. And an assurance is given again here. That is where our stand is as Transparent International Kenya chapter. We are today very grateful that you are all here with us and hope you can join that mission. It's challenging, but it's very satisfying in many ways. As you all may be aware, within this period, corruption has significantly spread and transformed into new variants. It has not only formed global webs, but equally penetrated the cells of public organizations, as well as privately owned enterprises. Finally, tossed family values upside down. In our session that we had this morning, people are talking about the values. Where did they disappear to? And maybe we can find an answer if we unpack what corruption is all about, what effects it all brings. One question which was asked by one of our collaborators, our partners, was, have we ever tried to explain to people the effects of corruption in their daily life? I do remember some years back, not so many, but some years back, when we were talking about Goldenberg. Some of you may not know, and many of you may not have been born, but I know about it. And believe me or not, somebody described of what the money which had been stolen, had it been put to good use, what would it have made for the Kenyans in the region, especially. He compared it from here to Mombasa. And it got people shaking because they couldn't believe it. Many times when we hear that 1/3 of what the money we make for the budget disappears in the thin air, that should send us thinking. And if we see that even our values have been affected. The same gentleman asked, why is it that people support, citizens support corrupt leaders? It's a big question. It's a question that we each should answer for ourselves. Why do they elect them? And in one place I was discussing with the ladies in the field. I worked once with a women organization, and they told me, if this person is giving me money which will put food on the table for my children, do I care if it is to give him the vote? And it's only for that day, but she's not thinking about 5 years. So I think we have a lot to think about. So our family values, the recent country and continental disasters. Recently, we had the disasters all over. We had the pandemic, COVID-19, and many other things that have happened in recent times, wars here and there and everywhere, have a cause-effect relationship with corruption. If you really go into the details of it and find out, how has it come about? Why is so-and-so fighting with so-and-so, this country and that? If you go into it, how much of corruption has influenced, has enhanced the fight, has even people still want to support it. Illicit financial flows, funding wars locally, and some foreign countries, or even compromised quality of standards. So you find the manufactured goods, the transport, the infrastructure, the housing, all this, and safety risks. Public debt is something we are all talking about. Traps destroying economies, non-conformity to environment standards leading to unprecedented climate change are all related to corruption. Just think of one thing that is not related to corruption. You'll be surprised. An obvious thing that you should be, I found out that you could even, when the petrol was missing for a short while, there was a lot of room for corruption, actually. You could get petrol, 5,000 shillings petrol, when you are being told it's 1. So if you say, I'll add 500 on top, then you can get petrol 5,000. So it's eating us. It's eating us. I just throw this out to you to reflect on and to show you that TI, in coming up to the new strategic plan, we have put this into a lot of thought. We have spent days on and days out to just think, how do we get this understood and then put into practice? Ladies and gentlemen, it's clear that corruption is directly threatening human existence. It's a strong word I'm saying, but it is true. How many today somebody said about a mother who lost her baby on the way to hospital because of the whole root, the root cause of all that was because of corruption somewhere where a car was not and where the road was so bad. You know, there are many ways of it. It's threatening our humanity, we as human beings' existence. It is threatening. This, however, does not mean that our work has had no impact. Rather, we need to scale up our assault. We need to be stronger. We need to fight. We need to really maybe join forces. We need to review at all times. We are a dynamic body, and therefore we should always go back and see, where are we? How can we improve on this? And who else needs to come on board with us? It is hard, but I can assure you that it is possible. Nothing is impossible. When there's passion, when there's that will, the will is stronger than anything else. We need more soldiers, ammunition. And that's why when I turn to our partners, to our colleagues, to people supporting us in whatever way, please come forward. Let us support each other. I always tell anybody who is interested in supporting a country or a project, find a way of cooperating with others so that you can see the effects of what you are doing. Because on your own, you may not be able to realize that had I worked with so-and-so, maybe they would have influenced the systems, the policies, and helped to make it a better project and with more success. I worked once with a donor agency, and one of the things we used to get worried about, we spent so much money in small-scale industries and many other things that we were working with. And 5 years down the line, the end of the project, you go there and you find that nothing has happened. And then you ask yourself, what? So we even thought of phasing out plan where you give money and then you keep on for the next 5 years. You know, all strategies. We had all the strategies. But still corruption found us. And that is where I say maybe we need now to be more together in this. Now looking ahead, in view of the evolving socioeconomic context, and in particular corruption trends and patterns in Kenya, Africa and global, we have developed a new strategy which we are pleased to share with you today. Immediately I finish here, I think there will be one or two things and then we shall share. This strategy is a symbol of our resolute spirit to fight corruption despite the challenges. Our hope in a better Kenya, regardless of our current situation, of the discouragements that we see around, or the hopelessness that we see in our people, should not make us not do what we should. Our current situation is dire at some stage. Desire to live but we have that desire. All of you, if not parents, but you have sisters, you have relatives, you have friends, you have people that live around you. You want to leave a legacy to the generation that is going to come. Something. What is it that you are going to leave them? That we couldn't fight it? Therefore, we have left you some corruption things to deal with and move it forward? I don't think that's what you want. We all plant trees. We all do all sorts of things because we want people to come and see how beautiful the world has been. My wish is that we'll continue to fight. The legacy which inspires the next generations to see the reason to live. The strategic plan process was elaborate and consultative. It is a consultation of your views, some of you, many of you here, your views and ours, a combination of our shared experiences and identification of compatible pathway, a way that we think we can work together, pathway that we can do together. We've done this in this manner, that we've gone out and spent almost a year to do this. We in TI remain committed to a vision of delivering a corruption-free society in when I say society, I include others. We endeavor to achieve this by promoting integrity, transparency, accountability in both public and private spheres, and we urge all of you to partner with us. I think the day we shall succeed is a day when each and every one of us, be it Mama Mboga, Boda Boda, that we shall internalize the issue of corruption, that it is not outside us. It's not abstract. You know, if you ask somebody, what is corruption? They want to think of some strange thing that has happened. But when the minute you say, have I played a role in it? Can I actually maybe advance it without knowing? Then maybe that is when we'll get home. That's when we'll arrive home. And maybe this is what we need to do between now and especially during this, what we plan to do. We remain deeply guided by our core values, and these are values that many of us embrace in our own places: justice, unity, integrity, courage, and excellency. Yeah, it can't be excellent if you are not doing what you think you should do. So I always say that it's a value that we really want to interest everybody. We urge you to embrace them too, if you can. Our work is anchored on a firm understanding and belief that corruption is an abuse to yourself. The minute you start thinking of it as an abuse to myself, that I have freedom to do things and then I don't do them right, that's an abuse to you. Then, of course, an abuse to the other person. And what stops abuse to yourself and others is by you starting to think of what others would like, or how I would like to be treated. And this is one way. It's also an abuse of power. So many people have power and they misuse it, and I think we see that a lot. Maybe the time has come for us to ask ourselves, where is my power? And how do I exercise my power? Your freedom is even with you when you are not talking to anybody, but you are thinking about wonderful things that you can do for other people. It's your freedom to think of positive things that will give value to other people, will add something to their lives. We hope this understanding relates to millions of Kenyans, and the bigger global community can also embrace that. We have modified our focus areas and advocacy approaches within this strategic period of 2022-2028 to suit the current and anticipated context within this period. The strategic focus areas of engagement models to be unveiled shortly will show you that TI still believes, we still believe in the fact that there's a lot of room for us to do better, and we want to do it. And we're asking, we don't want to walk this journey on our own. We want to walk with you. For those who can continue to support us morally, those who can support us technically, financially, we are all open for that. We are ready and willing. We are very committed to this. In conclusion, I want first to thank all those who have come all this way with us. I mean, of course, I can go back and say 24 years, but more specifically the last strategic plan of 5 years. And those are many, and most of you seated around the table here, you've done one support of the other. I want to thank also our membership. We have a membership of about 30 members. And our board members who are here, you are young people. Can you jump up so that I can be proud to say that they are looking at this old woman and they are wondering, are there any people? Can we see the young people around me, the board members I have? I have Samira here. Yeah, and Nicole. I have Sheila, whom you know very well. I have Eva Kidenji. And I have Dr. Musima, sorry. And I have the lawyer there, James Mudhui. Please have a seat. Those are my team. I work with a great team. And we are this type of people who know how to work with people, work through people. And I enjoy working with these wonderful young people. And they are volunteers. I have made them stand for the purpose that they are volunteers. They are not paid even a cent. When they come for a meeting, they get a bottle of water, and if Sheila is kind enough to spare something from her pocket, she buys us a mandazi or something like that. But no issue of transport, no issue of what. This is what it's all about. And we have to sacrifice. I know not all of us can, but we have to enable each other to fight in their own way. Those who can't manage, and they have the spirit, they have the passion, bring them on board. I want to thank the donors from all over who are here. I've seen my relatives from the, I call them my relatives, and people laugh, from the Nordic countries, because I have a very close relationship to them. And of course, I also have a relationship with the whole of UK. So I have homes there. So that is something that I'm proud to say. My children are married there. So you can imagine I belong there. That's why I'm saying that, yeah. So I want to thank my relatives, my friends who are here today, and just say to you, please continue. And my Kenyan relatives, my own relatives who are here, like Uraya. Where's Oliver is there, Uraya? Yeah. There was Oxfam here. There were many, all of you, I can't name you all. But you know deep down in your heart that I recognize you, and I feel so proud to be associated with you and to see your contribution to this. And of course, I want to thank our staff for all the wonderful work that they are doing, from Sheila and her team. And to you all, I say, even with Mr. Masai, who is our MC, a great man in the media world, yeah? You join the team. Good. So all of us, if we unite, if we hold hands, and from today we say, we grow our partnerships, our collaborations, and to turn the tide against corruption, we shall. Thank you very much.
Sheila, I think it was clear from the chair lady that I'm getting a corner office, so I'll be joining you at Ngong Road very soon. That's how you get a job. That's how you get a job. Run with it. I see some familiar faces here. Daktari there, I think he's live. He has his own channel. And as we also revisit the exercise we had earlier, if you may please just put up the Menti.com just to show people that it wasn't a scam. We have representation of organizations, and let's just see where it's at right now, if you may. And as we do that, you'll see who has taken up the numbers. Of course, it's no surprise where the CSOs lie. We have great representation there, but you'll be seeing it. And as that happens, I'd like to also appreciate and recognize the presence of my good friend. I call him good friend because he's allowed me not to baptize him. He's from the Norway Embassy, Erik Brekka, I believe that's how you pronounce his second name. You tried. You're laughing at me. You tried. His first name is Kjell, Norwegian. How would you pronounce it? Kill? Oh, she got it right. Our keynote speaker got it right. But anyway, yes, Erik Brekka from Norway Embassy. It's good to have you with us, sir. As well as Juliet Mule from GIZ Kenya. Mule Musau, the Election Observation Group. It's good to see you, sir. Benson Shamala, the Country Director, International Justice Mission. And Peter Kiama, the Executive Director, Independent Medical Legal Unit. Joshua Changwong, the Executive Director at Krakow, and Diana Gishengo, the National Coordinator at TISA. I think I had seen it. Yes, there you are. There you are. All people that actually interacted with, and as you can see there, it's probably not too clear. Civil society organizations, 27 of them represented here, the government, 18. We have the government in the house, but that's also represented internationally. And we have media, too, that I'm one of them, and the community organizations, based organizations, we have 1, and NGOs, we have 10. So little north of 50 that we have represented here. Thank you for participating in that, and it helps us to also appreciate those who have been here to witness the launch of the strategic plan. A plan that has taken a journey of over a year. And I believe as the executive director of TI Kenya comes to give us the background of the journey it's taken over a year, we spoke with her. My last assignment at NTV was on Chapter 6, and it's actually addressed in what we're about to launch today, in looking at the legal and even operational context that we are operating in, that is TI Kenya. And it actually says we're not short of legal frameworks that can support corruption-less society. It's probably just the goodwill. And we spoke about that in that feature that I did, something you should check it out on YouTube, on Chapter 6 of the Constitution. I spoke to her and some of the other people represented here. So she's someone who's really passionate on this issue, and who best but to speak on that. And as she comes, let's just look at the milestones that TI Kenya has been able to appreciate over the years.
TI Kenya is a civil society organization that has been working in Kenya, duly registered since 1999. We have been able to... TI Kenya is a civil society organization that has been working in Kenya, duly registered since 1999. We have been able to achieve quite a bit in the last 24 years, but specifically in the last 5 years, for the last strategic plan that we have been implementing since 2017 to 2022. Through outreach events and public forums, we've reached over 13 million Kenyans with messages on good governance and anti-corruption. We have 4 centers where people can receive advice and report corruption, which we call the Advocacy and Legal Advice Centers. We've been able to attend to 3,852 citizens and given them advice on corruption-related cases, and also helped many of these to follow up these cases with duty bearers and with the relevant agencies. We have also really advanced our work on social accountability and promoted civilian oversight, particularly through the social audit assessments, which we have facilitated at the county level. We were able to follow up and support almost 14 model county government bills, that have accountability-related provisions. We also managed to influence more than 35 accountability, anti-corruption-focused bills. We pursued 7 public interest litigation cases, particularly related to whistleblower protection, access to information, and a number of them on leadership and integrity. We have strengthened the capacity of almost 109 actors and institutions. We have been able to produce 34 different quality knowledge products from the Brebery Index, which has been conducted at the regional level and also at the country level, the county governance status study, and other various integrity-related surveys. We've actually also gone further and facilitated administrative petitions, not just from us, but also in collaboration with our partners. We really need to put governance at the center of development and ensure that every single shilling is used for its intended purposes. So now more than ever, we really need to focus on governance and accountability related interventions to ensure that the few resources that we have, the little funds that the country has, are actually put to the right use.
In all this work, one is called upon to have enough the resources in the form of money and even human resource or people, to do the work. We are called upon by many counties today to see whether we can have these programs in their areas, but we are not able to do it because we have no resources.
There's still a lot more that we probably need to do, and so that is why even in the next strategic plan, the aspect around leadership and integrity is so key. But we are not just focusing on politicians and on institutions this time. We are also going to have a strong focus on citizens, particularly in regard to shaping a model for social behavior change.
We look forward with hope to yet another 20 years of eliminating corruption and patching up the ethical fabric in Kenya.
Live on the TI Kenya YouTube page, and it's also being recorded for accountability sakes and for later, for archiving. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I see someone I know, Patience Nyange. She represents the Association of Media Women in Kenya. Speaking of media, Sheila Masinde, my first interaction was in the newsroom. She's a baby of the newsroom and has now grown into this space and is doing a lot of good work. And I'd like to give a hand to her personally. Join me, please, as she takes to the stage. Sheila Masinde, beg your pardon, Sheila Masinde, the Executive Director, TI Kenya.
Thank you. Yeah, Mark, that was almost 15 years ago. It was recognized. Yeah, we worked with Mark at NTV and Nation more than 15 years ago, and he was at a time my competitor when he worked at Radio Africa. But it's good that we've remained in contact, and now I'm bringing him to this sector. Mark, we need more activists to continue fighting corruption. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much once again, and I'll just speak up from where the Chair, Mrs. Musundi, left in terms of where we're looking at in the next 6 years. So I have a very brief presentation, and actually to make it more brief, my colleagues have ensured that we have a short video which will just highlight our key interventions, so that if I was to go through them, you all know my pet topics. There are about 3 of them, and I will go on and on speaking. So I have the help of a explainer video to just go through some of the key areas I will be looking at in the next 6 years. And why 6 years? A lot of people have asked me, because when people plan, they look at a strategic plan for maybe 3 years, 4 years. Traditionally, as TI, we've planned around 5 years. But this time we're looking at 6 years, because every time we fall into the trap of planning during an election year. We found ourselves in that trap in 2007, in 2012, in 2017, and last year in 2022. And I can tell you it's very difficult to try and reflect and project the country in the middle of a political transition. And so for this particular strategic planning period, we have extended by 1 year, such that instead of re-looking at our strategy in 2027, we'll be coming back to it in 2028. But that does not mean that will go on for 6 years without reflecting and just taking a moment to look back. It means that we'll have to have a very comprehensive midterm review about 2025 to just be able to look at where we are, where we have gone in 3 years up to 2025, and where we need to focus in the next 3 years. So I'm just, in a way, booking your calendars for 2025 when you need to conduct a midterm review, because it is you, many of you represented here, your institutions, that actually participated in the various co-creation discussions that we had in the development of this strategy. So this strategic planning process started in March, almost a year ago, March 2022, and it was a very consultative process. We had discussed with our membership, some of whom are represented here today, our board of directors who have been introduced, our staff, and various external stakeholders. You're here as well, from government agencies, civil society, private sector, and also development partners. And this consultative process included critical reflections. We asked all our partners to really reflect on what we have done collectively in the fight against corruption in the past 5 years. What are the prevailing challenges? What are the lessons learned? And just explore together on the context of our anti-corruption work in the ensuing future. So this really, what we have today is a culmination of the process that we started a year ago, although we have been implementing the plan since October 2022, when our board approved the plan for implementation. But we're just giving you some time, because we realized that end of year would not be a good time to launch the strategy, because many of us were thinking about Christmas and taking a break, and also planning respectively for your different institutions. That's why we're doing it at this time of the year. So our deep appreciation to all of you who have informed this process and our work. So the explainer video will look and share into our core values, and I think Chair has touched on it, our understanding of corruption, because we also wanted to really reflect on what really is corruption, because in our discussions it emerged that it has become such an abstract issue, and because it's abstract, then it doesn't sound as bad, you know. But when you talk about corruption, you're talking about abuse of power and resources. You're talking about dishonest or fraudulent conduct. You're talking about bribery, you're talking about theft, uwizi. But people never really think about this, and that is why you find that sometimes, in many cases, someone who's been accused of corruption becomes an overnight hero, among his or her constituents. And we really thought we need to then think back and define corruption in a way citizens will really understand what does it entail and what is the impact in their lives. We looked at the context of the country right now in terms of what were the challenges, what are the issues we are facing, what does corruption contribute in some of these challenges that we are facing. And one of the things that came out is that, of course, corruption has been prevalent in Kenya from time immemorial, since independence. We have various studies, some done by Transparency International, some done by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And I know our very worthy partner from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, John Lolgosoi, is here also joining us today. Karibu, John. And they have also done numerous studies that have really validated our own findings on the extent of corruption, particularly in terms of what citizens think, their attitudes towards corruption, and also how corruption is often manifested through bribery, nepotism, procurement corruption, theft, and mismanagement of public resources. And so we found that corruption still remains a major challenge at both county and national level. We also looked at the regulatory frameworks governing corruption, and we found that Kenya has actually, we don't have a shortage of laws. We have robust laws and policies and institutions, starting from the Constitution and many other accountability-focused and anti-corruption legislations. I'll not name them there, but you know them as people who have worked very closely with us. We have also signed and ratified various conventions. In fact, the joke is that Kenya is often the first country to sign on some of these conventions. You have the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption. We have signed and made commitments in regard to these conventions and some of them elements that they address in regard to the fight against corruption. So why do we still have a big problem in terms of addressing corruption? Why don't we seem to be moving forward in the fight against corruption? We also looked at the economic context, and I think right now, especially in this particular year, the focus doesn't look positive in regard to the challenges that we have been facing in regard to economic environment, poverty, inequality, unemployment, and other various shocks or disruption to our economy. And other challenges, of course, driven by corruption. We've had the problem of budgeted corruption, and I'm happy that the Auditor General is here, and I hope that she'll be able to touch on that, and how do we address it together, civil society working with government public agencies on this issue of budgeted corruption, illicit financial flows. I think Chair spoke about it in her speech, and also the growing problem of public debt. Then the big elephant, we found this a big issue, and that is why a lot of our focus in the next 6 years will be centered around this, is a socio-cultural context. We continue to face the challenge of normalization of corruption. It feels as if it is so normal, that someone steals from the public coffers, especially if it's a politician. That's normal. Can we just move on with life? I think sometimes when we insist and we do our actions on this person needs to be this, we need an investigation on this matter. We need to see progress in prosecutions. We need to see people convicted, and people are just like, okay, can you just move on, get on and move on with it? That's something that will continue in our country. And you get the sense that this has been normalized. We have normalized even bad behavior, and you're seeing a lot of our youth growing up, getting socialized and culturalized into accepting corruption, and we really must disrupt this by promoting an embracement of better values and ethics in our country, and that is why we really want to focus on this. And one of the other last issues I want to highlight that we also found in our analysis is a problem of climate and extractives governance, and this also has informed our work. It's an area of work that we've had for climate change. We've been looking at financing that has been coming in for climate change interventions in the last 10 years, and we want to deepen our work in that area, and also the issue of extractives, transparency in extractives management, corruption, and really what we would describe as a commodification of natural resources in ways that entrench inequalities. And when this happens, it's the vulnerable populations, the women and the young people that are most affected. But how do we then turn the tide against this? So our work that we're going to share in a short while really tries to address some of these challenges that we highlighted and we observed as we were reflecting with many of you on what then we needed to do. What direction does the fight against corruption need to take in the next 6 years? So I don't want to speak any further, but let our highlights in terms of the next 6 years, how does it look like? What are our focus areas? What are our strategic result areas? What are strategic interventions? Those will be highlighted in the video that will play shortly. Otherwise, I could go on and on because, you know, this is what we do for for most part of the year. Thank you.
Just signal me when ready with that video on the report that's being launched today. Hashtag Action for Integrity, by the way. That's a tag that we're going by, and that's how it's titled. And as we wait on that, I'd just like to acknowledge as well he's just joined us, one of those key speakers, remarks. He's going to be giving us remarks. He's a chairperson of the African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption, and that is Honorable Shakil Shabir. Shukran for coming. I believe you've made your way quite a distance, kutoka Kisumu. So let's give him a hand. I'm to join Leo. He made it to make sure he comes and honors with a remark. So I believe we're ready with the video now.
At Transparency International Kenya, we will continue working to champion for ethical values and behaviors and to empower the public to shine a spotlight on the corrupt. By so doing, we promote a culture of transparency and accountability, which leads to greater equity and quality of public service delivery, hence improving the quality of life for Kenyans. Our vision will be a corruption-free society, and the roadmap to this is to champion the fight against corruption by promoting integrity, transparency, and accountability in both public and private spheres. In our philosophy, we understand corruption to mean participation in abuse of trust and or power, including fraudulent or dishonest conduct, bribery or theft, misuse of public resources for private benefit. We acknowledge that corruption weakens institutions and undermines sustainable socio-economic development. We thus deliberately promote a culture of ethics and integrity at individual, societal, and government attainment of economic, social, cultural, civic, and political rights as enshrined in our Constitution. As such, our work will be centered in 4 strategic focus areas. 1. Citizen demand and oversight. This will focus on concerns around inadequate enforcement of constitutional and legal provisions on leadership, integrity, and anti-corruption, normalization of corruption at individual and societal levels, corrupt, unethical, and unaccountable leadership, and inefficient, ineffective, and non-responsive public service delivery and humanitarian aid systems. 2. Natural resources and climate governance. We will focus on misgovernance of natural resources and environment, corruption, inadequate knowledge, information, as well as non-transparent natural resources and climate governance processes. The priority sectors that this pillar will focus on include land, extractives, environment, energy, and blue economy. 3. Public finance management. This focus area will pay attention to transparency of public procurement processes, illicit financial flows, efficiency of public spending, and quality of financial oversight systems. 4. Institutional development. This strategic focus area seeks to build upon Transparency International Kenya's track record while further developing its internal capacities and sustainability. As we implement our strategic plan, Action for Integrity, we look forward to more support from you, stronger partnerships and collaborations to turn the tide against corruption.
And I believe we'll be getting a copy of that as we head out. You can give a hand to the team that put that together. And as we have a performance just before the short remarks from those who will be addressing us, I'd like to call on Mufasa the poet. He has something special to deliver. And yes, I believe as he sets up, just to acknowledge as well the presence of Felix Owuor, Executive Director, Elgear, that is Electoral Law and Governance Institute of Africa, Dennis Omondi, the Country Director, National Democratic Institute, Cornelius Oduor, Kenya Human Rights Commission, Samuel Kimeo, member of African Union Advisory Board on Corruption. He was seated right there, I believe he's left. Ben Kirago, that is from the Center for International Private Enterprise, Joseph Jogona, the Embassy of Denmark, Sandra Kidwingira, the Program Manager at Diakonia, Sweden, and Jason Braganza, Executive Director at the African Forum and Network on Debt and Development. And I met someone else from the office, a representative there. I believe it's Diana. Nice to have met you earlier. David Omoyo, I mentioned him earlier, the CEO of Media Council of Kenya, Anthony Wafula from Hivos, Elsie Saina, the Executive Director, International Commission of Jurists. We have many important people who have turned up and given their time, and I appreciate, and I believe right now we have Mufasa the poet ready with his piece.
Hi everyone, my name is Mufasa, this is Lucas, Mbaluka on the guitar, Don on the saxophone. Yes, down.
Knocking on the door. Yes, sir. Knocking on the door. Knocking on the door. Knocking on the, knocking on the, knocking on the door. I'm knocking on the door. The doors of freedom. The doors of freedom. Freedom. mother's soul. I'm knocking on the door, knocking on the, saying I'm knocking on the door, knocking on the door, doors of freedom, freedom of the mind, freedom of the soul.
On the first day, the Father in heaven said, "Let there be light." On the first day, the founding father of our nation said, "Let there be lies." And every president who came after him found lies to be good. So they kept people in the dark. On the second day, the founding father of our nation grabbed and shared land amongst friends to create people who are above others. You know, just like God separated the sky from the earth, or what earth to see. Now see, on the third day, now this is where it becomes about waters. The founding father of our nation created a system that did not need to account to its citizens. That has trickled down to today. Remember Kimwarer? Remember the dams? They blew down money, but does anyone give a damn? Just to remind you, on the third day, God did not give a damn. He gave us oceans and lakes and seas with water that did not cease. On the fourth day, the Father in heaven created the sun. On the fourth day, the founding father of our nation created the sun. And just like the moon and the stars, there's no limit to what his son could be, what he could do. I mean, look at what he did. He created a buzz. His team was, honestly, it was bad. Birds, vultures, that's the fifth day. Ha, see what I did? Now on the sixth day, God made man. On the sixth day, the founding father of our nation made man carnivorous. It's a man-eat-man society. Politics is how politicians become rich and how people become subjects of lessons they have never learned from. Check the newspapers. It's not news if it's not on the cover. People who make the cover make the news. People who make newspapers are in the business of selling politics. It's not undercover when it's on the front page. Now on the seventh day, God rested. The founding father of a nation did not. He picked a tribe and called it superior. Picked another tribe and called it inferior. That's why until today, it's hard to stand as one nation when we started in division. And too bad we forgot our soil is our oil. When we import food, the only thing we are sending is a message, a bad one, that our people don't come first. Is the reason greed in this country has come to last. So don't tell me we of the Writers Club should never write pages that will host stars, starring as Thomas Sankara, Yuki Wationgo, Yashpal Gai, Wangari Madai, Malai Sazai, Children Time, was a pack of me, Mahatma Gandhi, Stevie Kotomba, Matlu, the Timja Muga, Badongo, Rupa, we of the poetry tribe will write pieces that will draw the sun to send its rays to enlighten folks in villages, women in corridors, thugs in offices, bullies in schools, guns in peace missions, visionaries in social halls. In fact, clap for DJs who won't retire and continue to make up words like Rabadabadu, this is for you, to bring back songs of revolution. Songs like Zakana, Kana, songs Kahiza, because ours is not a revolution of gun and violence. Ours is a revolution of the mind, spirit, and energy. Because honestly, change won't come when our leaders change. Change will come when we change. Lucas. Give it up for Don on the saxophone. Baluka on the guitar. Thank you very much.
No pressure to the next people we're taking to the podium. By the way, just honestly, just keep it short, keep it to 3 minutes with your address, and no one will hold it against you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like us now to actually move on to the next segment of this particular program. But as I do that, I also like to appreciate the presence of, he says, I actually breached protocol. The only president in the room, and this is the president of the Kenya Medical Association, Dr. Simon Kigondu, who is live as we continue with this program. Dr. Simon Kigondu, good to have you with us. Give him a hand to the president of KMA, just to be correct on record. So, also, we have representation from the Kenya Revenue Authority. You need to give a hand to that, please, if you know what's right for you. Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is also represented here, EACC. Let's give a hand to them. IEBC as well, they are here, and this is something that's very keen on the blueprint for the Transparency International. OAG, Office of the Auditor General, and represented by the person who's going to give us a remark here just shortly. National Police Service is here. Office of the Registrar of Political Parties is here as well represented. International Commission of Jurists, International Budget Partnership, and that is Abraham Rugo, the Executive Director. He's here with us. And Interreligious Council of Kenya, Communication Authority of Kenya, Kituo cha Sheria as well is here with us, and the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, as well as Business Registration Service. These are key partners as well as we move forward with this blueprint for the next 6 years. So asanteni sana for your representation here and for joining us this morning. So to start it off with the short remarks, 3 minutes. Don't be pressured from the Mufasa the Poet and his team who did a great job. And Uraya Trust, represented by the Executive Director, Dr. Oliver Waindi. Please join us on stage. He's the first to give us short remarks. Ndio yule pale. Jo. Usiimbe, hakuna guitar. It's just to speak from the heart.
Thanks, Mark. Is it okay? Morning, everybody. Well, I was taken aback really yesterday when Sheila told me that I'm going to make remarks, and I was like, remarks on what? And she said, no, Oliver, you must come because you are a friend to TIA, to the sector, and you're going to make remarks on the role of CSO. Now, she didn't give me any marking scheme. So I imagined this just an open check where I would write anything I want to. And so I'm going to write anything that I want to. And I told myself, okay, when Sheila calls me, I can't say no because of the respect and love I have for her and for TI. But more importantly, because I felt this is a good opportunity as well to come and speak as a Kenyan. At times, I don't want to speak as the executive director of Uraya because this comes and this goes. But the fact that I'm a Kenyan is a permanent feature in my life, from womb to tomb. And so I come here as a Kenyan, first to demonstrate the very shameful state that we are in, as has been illustrated by Mufasa, by Madam Chair, and by Sheila. And after that, to rejoice on the mountaintop through the panoramic view and celebrate, because our country has such a beautiful future that I want to be part of. So where are we right now that I call shameful? First and foremost, welcome to Kenya, because if you are a Kenyan in this room, it is high time you identified your the demons and demonizing the canons. We are a country that has substituted the need to apply technology and substituted that with theology. We are a country that has chosen the latter-day Barnabas over Jesus Christ. That's the country that I find myself in for the past 50 years. And a country that makes me feel sad because it's got such huge potential. And so I ask myself, what exactly am I supposed to say? First, as a representative of the CSO and as a very good partner to TIA, we are faced with challenges we've never seen before. They have been enumerated here by Madam Chair, well exemplified by Sheila, and what excellence and eloquence from Mufasa. What are the challenges in our country today that we ought to face head on? Our educational sector is in complete disarray. I was in this room yesterday, and I was telling our partners, this is the first time in our lives where our students in primary school are ahead of our students in high school. It's so complex, it's so hard to grapple with. And from your faces, I can tell the despondency, and that's exactly what our parents are feeling all across the borders of our country. We hope that the task force and the panel meeting that will occur will help us to have a refined and a defined, internationally acclaimed educational system like the one that we grew up in. Unemployment is absolutely out of proportion. It's never occurred like this before. One of the taxi drivers that we contract in my organization drove me a couple of days ago, and upon chatting with him, he told me he graduated with Bachelor's of Mechanical Engineering 9 years ago and has never been employed. Now he's employed as a taxi driver. That tells you and illustrates the shameful nature of what we churn out as our educational products. And that is the country that we find ourselves in. And a country that we are duty-bound to do every little thing that we ought to do to contribute in its salvaging. We can't do anything about global warming, but it is really ravaging our country. Again, I was here yesterday, and I was telling our clients then, our partners, that this morning we've eaten in this opulence of Serena. 90% of my countrymen have not had anything to eat. And 90% will not have anything to eat over lunchtime. And 90% will not have anything to eat for dinner. Again, like Sheila said, we have normalized this. It's not a big deal. It's not causing any anger in us. It's not causing any discomfort in us, because we are a country that has normalized the abnormal. We've talked about corruption. And John from Oxfam said it clearly. Every day you wake up, you see policemen literally taking, it's not a big deal anymore. Actually, I was wondering if we could just say, let's go all of us to get corrupt. Maybe that would make those who are not corrupt a little bit abnormal. Because as it is right now, corruption is so ingrained in our DNA, we cannot extricate ourselves. It's not even shameful anymore. And I think one of the criteria that should appear in chapter 6 of our Constitution is that you must be corrupt. Because it's pointless to have all this eloquence in English that we put in our chapter 6 and nobody's following it. Now, all of them who went to the parliament, were vetted in various positions, had one issue or the other. But they all made it with flying colors. Just like those who had A's from 1 or 2 schools that have never had A's before. And that is normalizing the abnormal. One of the things that we need to push is to have corruption is a requirement for elective position. Maybe that, because it is. So let's just make it then. That tells you how angry we are. Because corruption is killing our country, has killed our country, has killed generations, has killed our dreams. And we are still playing around with it. How I wish we could wake up one day and reach the levels of Japan, of Korea, where we will have 1 or 2 participating in corruption, but it will not be normalized and it will be made extremely painful. That day is going to come. Maybe not in our lifetime, like Madam Chair said, but it will come nevertheless. The capture of the institution. I'm a member of the Pentecostal Church. Actually, a former board member at Sitam Valley Road. And I asked myself, oh my God, am I proud to be a member of church anymore in this country? I don't want to answer that question because I may be misquoted by Mark Masai here. But we have a huge problem in our country because what was initially thought to be bastion of values, to be bastion of hope, has gone to bed with our government. Now, if you had the opportunity to watch the provost from ACK the other day, you understand where I'm coming from, and more importantly, where I'm going to. Can we get to the level of Okulus of this world? Can we get to the level of Manasseh Kurias of this world? Can we get to the level where church had such voice that when it spoke, everybody kept quiet? As it is right now, the dollarization of our economy is really gone bad. Kenya shilling has lost its value. Actually, they're estimating 30% in the last 3 years. And sooner or later, we are going to see our country getting dollarized. It means that we are going the way of Zimbabwe if we're not careful, where Kenya shillings won't have any value and everybody will be wanting to use US dollars. That's how bad our economy is. But we are duty bound to help it nevertheless, in a small way that we can in our small corners, like the hummingbird in the story by Wangari Maathai. Valueless leadership. Now, we can't demonstrate this better than what Sheila and Madam Chair have just said. We are bereft of values. By the way, at times I feel like we don't even have to talk about constitutions anymore because it's not even helping us. Human beings have got this tendency of going against the grain. It makes them feel happy. I mean, we just have 10 commandments in the Bible and we've never followed them for 6,000 years. So maybe it's high time we came down from the hardware that we're trying to build into the software. And the software is, can we just be good human beings to one another? There is enough for all of us in this world. There is enough for all of us. Enough for everybody. Enough for us in this country. We've got 584,000 square kilometers of land. Yet 90% of us don't have land. We have enough food, we have enough water, but it's not enough for the greed that we're exhibiting. And again, it goes back to the normalization of the abnormal that my sister Sheila talked about. It's high time we get angry about it. And like Mufasa said, we don't have artilleries and guns to go and shoot at each other. It starts from the mind. And when we get it down into our hearts, maybe one day, from the mountaintop, we can see the panoramic view of our country, and our children and children will have a country they can be proud of, because we are such a big, beautiful country, and we deserve better. Insecurity is just too much in this country. Again, we don't know what is true and what is not true, because other people are saying, the policemen attacked us at night. Others, you were never attacked. Give us the CCTV. So we don't know anything that is true. But what I know for sure is that mothers and children are having fatherless and husbandless generation in a big part of our country. We can talk and talk and talk until cows come back home. But as we talk today, there are people who have got no idea who a father is. We have got people who have got no idea who a husband is, because their husbands and fathers have been butchered in their own country. And that's the country we are normalizing the abnormal. And so I think Sheila will regret why she asked me to come and speak here today, because like any good prophet, I come here with no fear at all, but to express my heartfelt desire to see a better Kenya. Issues of alcohol and drugs, again, it's all about corruption. How these things get into our borders, how they eventually get into our estates, how they eventually get into our bodies, is something that all of us know. None of us can offer any solutions to. But as we are talking, we have generations after generations that are sleeping in trenches in our cities. They're sleeping on the roadside, and they're all suffering because of drugs and alcohol. Now, having gone to a mountaintop like Martin Luther King and seeing the panoramic view of my country, what makes me happy? Because what makes me happy is a 6-year plan that TI has brought up. It tells me that there is a good future in this country that is not just tied to elections. And that's what we all want in our sector. That can we come together and play a small part. Mahatma Gandhi said, if you actually it was Mother Teresa, if you can't feed 100, just feed one. So it doesn't mean how small the contribution you make, but we are going to make a contribution nevertheless as a sector. And we are going to combine hands, effort, and resources to contribute a small way in making our country better. Reason? Because we have a country to bequeath to the generations that we've borrowed it from. And so I want to thank you so much. That is the commitment the CSO is giving you. And that's the regret that Sheila must have for inviting me. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Oliver Oendi, the Executive Director to Raia Trust, representing one of the partners with Transparency International from the civil society group. And we'll have the private sector representative next, as well as state actors, that is from Bwana Shakil Shabir, as well as the Auditor General. And you must appreciate Dr. Oendi was really sharing some passionate issues. Na ni ngumu kumkatiza. As you can see, the profile of this body is a bit different from Bwana Oendi here. So it was just trying to stand here to be an indicator. He had, actually, as I was standing, he was flipping to the next page. But we understand the passion that he shared this, because this is a reality we're in. Touch your neighbor and ask, are you a shareholder? He asked that, but he also normal. Asante for that, Dr. Waindi. And next up, I'd also like to, as I call up the Global Compact Network Kenya Executive Director, Judy Njino, 3 minutes, please. But also would like to appreciate the presence of the Executive Director, Interreligious Council of Kenya, Mr. Ismail Abdirahman, and the Competition Authority of Kenya. Karibu to Judy.
I promise I'll stick to the 3 minutes. So allow me to start by adopting all the protocols that had been earlier set, and to just start off by saying, yes, we do have shame. And I think we all must feel the shame that we are all experiencing this particular issue in our country years after independence. But at the same time, we cannot lose hope. And the reason I say this is because when you look back at history, all the major changes and all the major shifts we saw in society were actually driven by a few individuals, not the masses, who actually believed that things can actually be done differently. And I want to acknowledge that every person represented in this room here today actually has that belief and is committed to that particular principle in really changing the Kenyan society today. So as I stand here, I join TI Kenya, which is one of our strong partners at the Global Compact Network Kenya, and who we've worked very closely to really advance our work on the 10th principle of the UN Global Compact, which I represent here in Kenya, to really ensure that we have collective efforts and we bring in the approach the private sector can also play their part in really addressing the corruption scourge in the country. So I'm really pleased to join TI for the launch of its new strategic plan, and we're equally excited to be part of this milestone. I think we cannot emphasize anymore that corruption is indeed a significant concern for all of us here today and for all the Kenyans that are out there. And its negative impacts on the economy as well as the social development, I think, are well documented. But TI Kenya's efforts to tackle this issue head on is critical to building a more transparent and ethical society. Ladies and gentlemen, securing the future of business is at the heart of our work at the UN Global Compact. As a special initiative of the UN Secretary General, we have the mandate to mobilize business to be a force for good, using the power of the 10 principles on the 4 key issue areas of human rights, the environment, labor, and anti-corruption. For us at the Global Compact, we believe that corporate sustainability begins with a company's value system and a principles-based approach to doing business. Our 10th principle under the UN Global Compact specifically calls on business to work against corruption in all its forms. This means for companies participating in the Global Compact, they must put in place the policies as well as the programs to address all forms of corruption. But critically, we know that the efforts of one sector, while important, it's not usually enough. And that's why it's critical that the private sector also joins in the efforts with civil society to really address this issue in our country today. We believe in the principle of collective action, and we stand a greater chance of bringing an end to systemic issues of, graft, and we believe that it is too complex a challenge for any one sector to address. At the Global Compact, we have initiated different efforts and different programs to really bring the voice of the private sector to this particular agenda. Some of you might know our work around the Code of Ethics for Business in Kenya, which really is our attempt to ensure that the sector can self-regulate even while we push for them to really adhere to the laws of the land. Today, we're really happy to report that we have close to 1,000 signatories that have voluntarily committed to fight bribery and corruption, not only in their own business operations, but also extend the same to their supply chain. With our joint efforts together with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, CAM, and ourselves as a Global Compact, we are working very hard to ensure that the private sector understands their role, both as a contributor to this particular challenge, but also as a sector that can actually provide a solution. Over the years, we've also joined efforts with TI Kenya, both at the country as well as the global level, to really drive the next level of actions to help us root out corruption in our country. TI has been a signatory to the UN Global Compact since June of 2010, and it's been a founding member of our anti-corruption working group, which is a platform where we're bringing together private sector to really take, the leadership in shaping the policy, legal, and legislative framework around corruption. Critically, we are partners under the Kenya Leadership and Integrity Forum, which is our collective platform working with other sectors of society to map an integrated approach to preventing and combating corruption. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, through our collective actions and with everybody in this room, we can actually uphold the values of integrity across all sectors of society. As I conclude, I'd like to applaud TI Kenya for its bold efforts in promoting good governance and boldly speaking up even when many preferred to remain silent. As we celebrate the launch and the implementation of the new plan, please count on our support to harness the power of principled business to deliver greater accountability. And the same call is extended to all the stakeholders in the room here. The private sector is ready to engage, and the private sector is a powerful force to help us turn things around in this country. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Judy, for pledging the support from Global Compact Network to the stakeholders here, nonetheless, Transparency International. Next is a representative from state actors, and I'd like to call on the chairperson of the African Parliamentarians Against Corruption Network. Unajua ukiita wanasiasa, ukimpa mic anasema yangu ni machache. Naomba iwe chache tafadhali. Mheshimiwa Honorable Shakil Shabir, muda umeyoyoma lakini karibu.
Asante sana. All protocols observed. Firstly, I want to apologize. It took me 1 hour to fly from Kisumu to Nairobi and 1.5 hours to come from from Wilson Airport to Dede. I don't know why the roads were blocked. And I think that's where it starts from corruption. So firstly, before I say anything, I'd like to acknowledge the partnership that we were born together. TI and APNAC were twins, born at the same date over 20 years ago. Our parents were more or less the same. I think they were the same. Only we went one way and you went the other, but the fight is the same. I'm so sorry, somebody's trying to get hold of me, and I'm. So with those few remarks, I would like to say that we are very much with you, TI. We've been together. APNAC, for those who don't know, is the African Parliamentarians Against Corruption. We've been in existence over 22 years. It started with the founder of TI and the founder of APNAC, Muskari Kombo. And we have been going along in our way in Parliament. We've had our ups and downs. And our job, we see as lobbying, trying to change perceptions, trying to change parliamentary procedures, trying to do small things that can help in the fight against corruption. The acceptance of corruption in Kenya has become a norm. I read somewhere, and I was reading somewhere. So when you get up in the morning, your body is the concept of that fight. Half of you is evil and half of you is good. It is what you do and the attitude you take on the first few items that decides where you're going to go. If you get up and you're in a bad mood, everything is going to go wrong. If you get up and you change and you do the right thing, then that part of you that wants to do right wants to do more right. I know I've heard Kenya is very bad, and we've heard so many things. And sometimes we wonder what to do. Whether the state capture, corruption is so bad, we know. Whether we've taken it as a normalized corruption, it is becoming a fact. Recent cases that have been withdrawn, I never know whether they were really effective, they had their benefits, or they were really corrupt, or what was it, state capture, or was it political? We don't know. But the situation is this. Perception is very important. Like Caesar's wife, we must be beyond reproach. And that's us politicians. We must be beyond reproach. Are we? I can say no. But that's the aim that we are going to go for. That's where we are. So when we are now looking at people who are CSs who have been tainted or whatever, have had questions, and they are now in the policy making or executive role, we wonder where we are going. Are we using the process of to catch a thief, you must be a thief? Are we trying to change our tact? Is it something else? Is it political? Is corruption linked to politics? Or is politics part and parcel of corruption? Our job, and I've noticed TI, we've talked a lot, TI and all the partners. Our job is like Wangari Maathai. Do the little you can and hope the rest works. I'm looking very carefully at my Auditor General. I'm a chartered accountant like her. I sometimes I wonder, the Auditor General, I would not even do that job even if I was. It's a terrific job. It takes a lot of energy. It drags. I've seen Ed Ouko. We studied with him from Form 1 to Form 6 in Nairobi School. What I see of him now and what I see of him then, I wonder what we can do. And I don't give up, madam. It's people like you. It's people like you who are going to make the difference. The citizens, we the people, we the politicians, and those of us. You know, no 5 fingers are the same, believe me. I know maybe 3 of them are bad, but at least 2 are good. So what we need to do is to consolidate. What we need to do at my level with the parliamentarians is to say, listen, hold on, let's do this. This is better. Let's do this, and we shall get somewhere. At this moment in time, we're trying to follow little things to make big differences. 2015, not that long ago, maybe 2015, I was in Denmark for the opening, the anti-corruption conference. And I was sitting behind, just next to the Prime Minister of Denmark and the others, the Chinese and the others and Africans members. And I asked, when it came to my bit, I was talking about the export of corruption. I said, why is it that in Kenya there's impunity in corruption? And why is it that Denmark is number 1? And I just read in the news the other day that there has been this corruption in the bank. It is perception. Perception is actual fact. There cannot be smoke without fire. So when I asked why in China they can execute the corrupt, but here you export the corruption, it really, there was fireworks. When I was literally thrown out of that conference, and the Chinese were very upset. But they had a different view. They called us and asked us, what do you mean? So we tried to explain. And as a result, they took us to China to see whether we could see their fight against corruption. The problem was not their fight against corruption. The problem was us. And he said in the end, "Madam, what do you do? You guys are," you see, the perception of people of Kenya is very different now than 20 years ago. You know, I used to go to Dubai, we went to England or America or France or wherever. "Where are you from, Kenya?" "Oh yes, Kenya, very nice place," or whatever. You go to Dubai now, and some places, Kenya, "Oh, it's very corrupt, isn't it?" I was in Hong Kong, and we were talking about corruption, and we came out, and a guy came and said, "You know, the problem is, there's this issue of the gold. Some Chinese, Hong Kong Chinese were stuck with the Kenyans. And in my party, in the group that we went, was one of the people that EACC was looking for, and we were sitting with them in Hong Kong." So I think what we're trying to say is, we will do our bit. Civil society, please go ahead, do your bit. Madam External Auditor General, please, you are our front fight. You are that person who's got to go up in the front and fight. We are with you. And in the issue of this union about corruption and politics and the executives, we need to try and break it down. There was a time Muskari Kombo had started what we call name and shame. I've been talking about this thing, Citizens Against Corruption, the Citizens Platform Against Corruption. We need to call corruption for what it is, theft, straightforward theft. And I think what we need to do is have more discussions, but more than discussions, I think sooner or later with civil society we need to go to Uhuru Park and object about corruption. And you know, I'm sorry, sometimes we'll have to do this thing, the citizens fight against corruption. It has to take place, because what's happening is, this is hidden. It's put under the blanket. And sometimes, you know, when you're corrupt, you don't think you're corrupt. You just took a shortcut. They gave the policeman 100 bob because he didn't want to waste your time. I think that's where it stops. It should stop in that issue. From the point of view of members of parliament and the politics, I give you my assurance that we are fighting. We want to work with you, every single one of you on the platform, that we can take even a small gain and move it forward from Wilson. And hopefully we will see you when we launch that. Thank you very much, and my apologies for being late. Sorry.
It's very honorable to have you apologize for that, you know, considering the long way you've come to be here. But we thank you so much representing the African Parliamentarians Against Corruption as a chair, Shakil Shabir. Shukran for that. And he's mentioned a lady who I'm now calling up just before we get to the keynote address. She presents such hard facts with so much grace. She points to you the mistakes, and in Kenya it's big numbers that she quotes with so much grace. You take it or leave it, numbers don't lie. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite the Auditor General, CPA Nancy Galongo.
Thank you very much, Mark. Indeed, Honorable Shakir, it's not an easy job. But when I go home in the evening, knowing that I've done my best, I sleep easy. And I wake up the following day to do my best. The chief guest, represented by Motrine Gronbach, I hope I pronounced it well, the Deputy Ambassador of the Danish Embassy, Honorable Member of Parliament and Chair of the African Parliamentarians Against Corruption, Honorable Shakil Shabir, the Chair of Transparency International Board of Directors, Madam Bernadette Musundi, members of the board, the Executive Director for TI, Sheila Masinde, also my good friend, the partners, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am pleased to be here today with you to join you in launching the strategic plan for Transparency International Kenya chapter for 2022-2028. And I wish to extend my congratulations to the board, the senior management and staff, and all the partners for the delivery of the strategic plan, which will be the guide in achieving your vision. Indeed, it should be the Kenyan vision of a transparent and corruption-free society. Ladies and gentlemen, corruption in Kenya has a severe negative impact on the poor and most vulnerable in our society. It leads to increased costs and reduces access to quality services, including health, education, and access to justice. It impedes investments with consequent effects on economic growth and the creation of jobs or other forms of gainful employment and livelihoods of our citizens. Corruption denies Kenya a competitive edge as it turns development and discourages foreign direct investments by increasing the cost of doing business in this country. Corruption and lack of accountability has negatively affected our progress towards the attainment of our National Development Plan and Kenya's Blueprint on Development, Vision 2030, and more so, the prioritized critical areas that speak to the very lives and livelihoods of the citizens. Oversight institutions such as my office often enjoy greater levels of trust from the citizens, probably more than other arms of government. And this therefore positions the Office of the Auditor General to promote transparency, accountability, and ethical conduct in the public sector to a greater extent by promoting sound public financial management systems based on credible reports and feedback on the operations of public sector entities with regard to the delivery of their various mandates. My mandate is to audit all entities and generate, receive, and manage public resources to provide assurance to the stakeholders and indeed the citizens that these resources are used prudently and transparently for the benefit of the people with regard to sustainable development and continuous and quality service delivery. Transparency International is at the forefront in the fight against corruption by promoting integrity, transparency, and accountability in both the public and private spheres. And I would like to emphasize that part of public and private spheres, because oftentimes when we talk about corruption, we talk about corruption in the public sector, and we forget that corruption has a supply side and a demand side. And that supply side and the demand side meets and indicates that both the private and the public sector are fully involved, equally involved in corruption in this country. As the chair of TI, Madam Bernadette indicated, we entered into a memorandum of understanding between the two organizations in 2019, and this has seen us partner in advancing our shared goals of ensuring transparency and accountability in the utilization of public resources, because our respective mandates complement each other. Indeed, just recently, together with Transparency International and other civil society organizations, we were able to audit and issue the first citizen accountability audit on public participation in the budgeting process by citizens at the county levels. Our findings indicate that a lot still needs to be done to ensure that we as a country budget for programs and projects that the citizens really need and ask for and can benefit from, and not budget for corruption. The issue of illicit financial flows has been mentioned here, and I will also add my voice to it, that illicit financial flows has affected our nations, particularly developing nations and Africa. And this is an area that supreme audit institutions in the region, the auditors generals of the region, we came together
and we have recognized it as a threat to the development of our nations, to sustainable service delivery to the citizens, and worse still, ladies and gentlemen, it is a threat to our fragile democracies and peace in the region. We have therefore agreed to carry out joint and coordinated audits in this area. We must, however, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that with illicit financial flows, there is not only illicit financial outflows from the vulnerable nations, which is mainly emphasized in the public domain, but very significantly, there is illicit financial inflows to the developed nations. My question would be therefore, and this is a public debate that should now take center stage. If there was no safe space to hide, to stash, or to invest, and thereby giving legitimacy or laundry services to illicit financial flows, where would this illegally acquired and stolen money be kept? Perhaps we should start a campaign that now speaks, and I may sound as if I'm saying this in jest, but I'm very serious about it. We should start a campaign that says, if you steal it and you're able to get away with it, invest it in the country where it is stolen. Steal it from Kenyans, invest it in Kenya. It sounds very strange, but perhaps we could then see development taking place in our country. And then later we ask the questions, where did you get it from? The successful achievement of your mandate as Transparency International contributes to the achievement of my mandate and vice versa for the greater good of our country. The strategic plan provides you with a roadmap towards achievement of the vision of having a corruption-free society and the mission of championing the fight against corruption. It is always easy to develop an intentional strategic plan, sometimes maybe not too easy. Having gone through that process as the Office of the Auditor General several times over the years, as we continuously strive to improve our audit services for greater impact. I commend you for this. I also see areas where we can continue collaborating and building synergies and working together, especially in the 4 strategic resource areas, and in particular the area of citizen demand and oversight and applaud all the efforts that have been put into developing the strategic plan. I want to assure Transparency International that you can count on my support whenever needed in achieving your objectives. I acknowledge that working together, collaborating together, we shall enhance accountability and influence sustainable growth and quality service delivery in our country. Congratulations, and I wish you all the best.
So I'd like to appreciate the Auditor General for those remarks. I told you she gives you facts very gracefully, and when she was actually serious about if you get away with some proceeds, invest it back to the country of which you got it, and she just gives you the fact. Do with it as you will, but the facts are facts and they remain so. Thank you for bearing the facts there for this country, and grace to you as you continue with your mission. I'd just like to, as we call the keynote speaker, acknowledge the presence of FOTIC, the Friends of TI Kenya, as well as the alumni group of ex-TI Kenya colleagues. I've mentioned Samuel Kimeo, we've interacted with. Good to see you, sir. Elizabeth Munyefu, Juliet Mule, Joanne Kadamu, Elijah Ambassa. Thank you all for being here with us. So ladies and gentlemen, I believe I did not baptize her, but let me try again. This is the representative of the ambassador of Denmark to Kenya. This is a deputy ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a hand to Ms. Trine Gronborg. And she will say it better as it should be.
Thank you so much. I think you said it just perfectly. Chairperson and board of TI Kenya, executive director and staff of TI Kenya, representatives of various state and non-state institutions, fellow members of the diplomatic corps, honorable members of parliament, Honorable Auditor General, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure and an honor for me to be here today, and I would like to start by congratulating TI Kenya for your new strategic plan. TI can be very proud of the work you have done so far over the years, and I'm confident that the new strategic plan shall enhance this good work even further of promoting integrity and ending corruption in Kenya. I'm very grateful for the honor to make the keynote address at this important event, and I'm also pleased to affirm Denmark's commitment to contributing towards ending corruption and the promotion of integrity. I'm aware of the exceptional and consistent efforts that many civil society organizations here today have taken in the fight against corruption in Kenya. Just to mention a few, these includes, of course, TI's tremendous work on the annual Corruption Perception Index that acts as an important measure of how various actors are perceived on corruption, with the aim of encouraging all of them to do better. Social accountability efforts that have enhanced accountability for both duty bearers and right holders at county as well as national level. Efforts to promote adherence to the expectations of Chapter 6, which have been referenced many times today, of Kenya's progressive constitution, to encourage ethical, value-based leadership. Indeed, the constitution gives prominence to accountability, leadership, and integrity as national values, and prescribes high standards of integrity for the people holding public office. I also note the spirited efforts of the National Integrity Alliance, a broad association of agencies that seek to assert the national value of integrity and put an end to corruption at all levels of society. Now, corruption is a global problem, and the costs are very high. And I think throughout this morning that we've had together with all the speakers, they've all talked about the high cost of corruption at all aspects and levels of society, because it's not only cost in monetary terms. Corruption also undermines development, the Sustainable Development Goals and other development plans. Corruption is a real threat to stability of societies, and it erodes democracy and endangers social, economic, and political development. And that's why it's so important to continue this noble fight against corruption. And indeed, the global fight needs to be intensified to ensure economic recovery, achieve better services with taxpayers' money, and re-establish trust around the world. And let me at this point shortly turn to my own country, Denmark, which, as mentioned by the Honorable Mr. Shabir, the APNEC chair, has been, for the 5th year in a row, it has finished in the top of the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index, I think together with some of my Nordic colleagues also here today. According to the report, some of the reasons for this include that we have an effective interaction between the legislative, the law enforcement, and the judicial system. We have a very strong cooperation in combating corruption between the public and the private sectors and the different actors, and I'll get back to that. We also have a strong history of upholding the principle of zero tolerance, so meaning an absolute intolerance to any manifestations of corruption. So does this mean that we are perfect? No, of course it doesn't. And no country in the world is free of corruption, and let's be very honest, Denmark has also very much room for improvement. So instead of claiming to be flawless, we must acknowledge our challenges and insist on openness and transparency. And in the same time, we must protect those independent watchdogs like TI Kenya who keep an eye on the people in power. And you have my utmost respect and admiration, and Denmark is on your side. We share and we support your vision of an open and operational system that holds people accountable and for ensuring transparency and integrity. And one thing I would like to stress is the value of working together. Across civil society, journalists, academia, and representatives from both the public and the private sector. this cooperation, we cannot overestimate that. And therefore, I'm so happy to see today, and which we have had highlighted several times, that we do have representatives from across all sectors, state actors, private sectors, CSOs. Because we have to realize that when sectors are working separately, they often only produce words and new processes, but when they work together, they can make a lasting difference. Here in Kenya, Denmark has, through Uraia Trust, where Mr. Oliver made a keynote speak earlier, Denmark has supported various integrity promotion efforts, including electoral integrity, public financial management, and social accountability. And we are also members of the Anti-Corruption Donor Working Group, through which we combine efforts with our donor counterparts to collaborate with Kenya in its fight against corruption. And I hope that all of you have been as inspired as I have today by listening to all the speakers, raising awareness and bringing really fruitful substance for discussion. So let me conclude once again by congratulating TI Kenya for launching its strategic plan. We are very proud of our partnership with TI Kenya, and you can count on our support also in the future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for that. Since there won't be any more speeches, let me handle the mic right now. And by the way, many people are wondering if they'll get a copy of this particular strategic plan. Yes, you will, alongside other booklets and material for you to see the work that Transparency International Kenya does. And it's just outside. There's an exhibition area. As you make your way out, then you will be able to get a copy of that. But just after the launch, which is the moment we are here for, and we have reached. And I'd like to invite to the front side, this left of the stage, the chairperson of the board, of the TI Kenya board, that is Mrs. Bernadette Musundi, to please join us here at the area of launch. And so it's going to be, there's two that will be led by the keynote speaker, as well as Mrs. Bernadette, who will cut the ribbon, and then we will step back from that area, and Mrs. Bernadette, maybe even with the help of the keynote speaker, will be able to press a button that will now make sure that we can unveil this particular strategic plan, which is behind the draping here that we have. So because there'll be some pomp and color, so we don't want you to be too close to it to be scared, but to just step back on this side and we'll be able to capture that. We have some cameramen and ladies, okay, I only see cameramen, who will capture this moment for us. And as soon as that happens, then we'll cut the cake, have a piece for each of us, and then the rest of us will have it served at your table by good ladies and gentlemen from TI Kenya team. So as soon as the team is ready, are we ready to usher the people to the launch area? Mrs. Bernadette Musundi, the chairperson of the TI Kenya board, testing 1, 2, that is, as she makes her way there, she will be joined by the keynote speaker, the Deputy Ambassador of Denmark to Kenya, Ms. Trine Gronborg, and the other speakers who were also with us, the Executive Director of TI Kenya, that is Sheila Masinde, will also be joining us to that area, as well as the Uraia Trust Executive Director, Dr. Oliver Waindi, to the area. As you give us some music in the background, just as people make their way here and as we arrange them, we'll also be having the board of directors and those who are represented here. I believe it's 4 in number. Please join us as well. This is the occasion. I see Dr. Oliver Waindi here joining us to the front, Asante, and also the Executive Director of Global Compact Network, Judy Njino. Please join us there at the very front, as well as Mheshimiwa Shakil Shabir. Tafadhali ungana na sisi hapo, and Auditor General Nancy Lalongo, tafadhali feel free to join us here on this end. It is just to capture this momentous occasion, and you will help me count down from 5 to 1. There is a button to be pressed. I believe we have it on the go, but you don't press it yet, Mrs. Musundi. Don't press it yet, Bado, because you have to cut the ribbon, then step back a bit, and then we will have the pyros pop as you press the button. So to the chairperson of the board, you will hear us do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then you will press. But first we will cut the ribbon, and that is with the help of the Deputy Denmark Ambassador to Kenya, Trine Gronborg. So let's give her an opportunity. Yes, I'm told to hang on just for a bit. Yeah, so we'll cut the ribbon first, then we'll step back, and then we'll have the moment to press the button to have the pyros pop. Just so that you're not scared, we'll have a safe distance. Okay, so at the count of 3, first of all, just to cut this ribbon, not to press the button. We'll count you down, Mrs. Musundi. At the count of 3, let us, yes, we're still sorting out the pyros, or at least the setup. So let's rehearse this. Let's go over it again. Yes, Mrs. Musundi, don't you worry. Usifinya bado. Ukisikia nimekuambia tafadhali finya. Bonyeza. Then you can. So I mean, it looks, it's an interesting gadget there, but you know, just let's hold it. I'm so sorry to the Deputy Denmark Ambassador for keeping it there at the ribbon waiting. But yes, as a keynote speaker, you will be capturing that moment for us by cutting that ribbon so we can be able to have these drapes open apart as soon as it's deployed. I'm told that we're ready. So with DJ Mark, you're also ready on the standby with the music. And so at first, with 3, 2, 1, is to cut the ribbon first. Mrs. Musundi, I'll come to you with the button. So cut the ribbon first, and in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, the ribbon has successfully been cut. And now step back to the Deputy Ambassador so that the pop doesn't scare you. And yes, you can step back a bit, Mrs. Musundi. And then now we go to the countdown with the aid here of the screen. Let's do it together. 4, 3, 2, 1. Mrs. Musundi. Clap, 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 clap. She's dancing. There it is, being unveiled. Yes, we need to see it just to open the again and again. All right. We could also do it manually because the people really are eager to see it. So one person on this end and the other person on this end, please pull it to the side. Ladies and gentlemen, behold, Action for Integrity, the 2022 to 2028 TI Kenya Strategic Plan. There you have it. The hard copy of which you will get, every one of you will get that. Something else we will get, and if I'll have some help to get the cake from this end to that end, please. Because in Kenya, the occasion is lazima tukule keki, ndo sherehe ikuwe complete. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen of TI are already distributing the booklets. You can have a look for yourself. They're actually bringing it to you. And if we can have some help there, yes. As we wait for this cake to be brought, we'll have a moment there to capture with the board of directors, as well as headed by the chairperson. Right next to it, I believe it would have been better to have it here. Well, it is, because not to have someone hold it. Okay. Oh, you want to hold it? Okay, all right. If you're free to hold it, or put it, yes, or have it stand, yeah, because it might, or someone else to help on this other side, tafadhali. So the chairperson of the board, Mrs. Musundi, joined by the keynote speaker, Ms. Trine Gronborg. You can face this side. We need to we face this side, tafadhali. face this side, because these gentlemen would like to capture this. Hope it's not too heavy, but it has some heavy truths. It bears heavy truth. Let's give him a hand. All right, you're content with that? You've captured the moment? Iko sawa? All right, the executive director can also pose there with the model of this and the board of directors. Tafadhali, let's join in the picture. The board of directors as well as the speakers that we had today. Make sure that you're seen, like you're not covered by the model of the strategic plan. Is that a good angle? Is that a good angle? Okay, smile. I know it has some hard truths about what we're dealing with in Kenya, but try smile for the success that it has been to launch this strategic report. Or you can actually have a stern face because we're dealing with serious business here. I mean, it's the truth. No laughing matter there. We're good? We're content with that? And I believe the cake is ready now. If we can have that. All right, thank you for that. We can probably have it back to the table here, the platform. We have some help here. Just put it back there, or you can just on it down there. The cake, if we can have it just roll to this area in the middle so that everyone can be able to see it. Action for integrity, that's what's written on the cake. Just give it space, yeah. Just slowly. Push it back up. Is it heavy? Do you need help? All right. So this is how we'll do it. We'll have the chairperson of the board assisted by a keynote speaker. Sorry to trouble you today, you'll have a lot of activities, but you'll cut the cake together. And then there'll be a piece each for those who gave some remarks and to be shared to them using the plates that we have here. So yes, there it is. Yes, no, there's no countdown really for this. Let's just, yes, we can have that. Are you okay with that picture? Yeah, you're good? It's a time to celebrate the successful launch of the strategic plan. And then we'll cut it in smaller pieces. I like that. And then there's some side plates there. We can cut smaller pieces. If we can have a hand here to cut some smaller pieces into the side plates here to serve to each of those who gave a remark, speech. Just smaller pieces. Everyone wants a piece of cake. You can have a seat. And we can have a bit more hands here from the team to distribute the cake to the end. We'll have some gifts for our keynote speakers. So don't go too far. Don't leave. Madam Nancy Gadongo, don't leave because we have a gift for you. Dr. Waindi, I hope you haven't left. Kuna gift yako. Na pia kuna keki. So please, if we may, just serve it to each of them. And with us, we have the fork here. Yes, make sure that they have a piece each and then start distributing to the rest of the tables. I believe you have in hand the strategic report, the 2022 to 2028 strategic report in hand. And a piece of cake is coming your way. As you get, I believe, oh, not everyone has got.
This is your celebration. Celebrate good times, come on. Let's celebrate. Celebrate good times, come on. Let's celebrate. Going on right here. A celebration.
And we also want to have a good photo. Have you gotten a piece?
So bring your
You have to make sure you get a piece of cake. You have? Already? Oh, not yet. Okay. So as we wait on that, because they need to get a piece of cake as well, the two of them. And I believe our keynote speaker, Ms. Treen, the Deputy Ambassador, Denmark to Kenya. Have you gotten? Sorry to trouble you. Have you gotten a piece of cake? She'll be back.
It's time to come together.
There's just a gift.
It's up to you.
There's a gift that's coming your way. We just want, yeah. But she'll be back. She'll be back. Not too early. As people get the piece of cake, I'd like to call on Mrs. Basundi to help me in awarding the gifts to our speakers today. There's a gift right there. The first one to a keynote speaker. They're all named. All right, here in the middle. Mrs. Musundi, don't trouble yourself. Kienda huko. Kuja tu hapa. Utaletewa. Because they want to capture this as well. Yeah. As they present a gift. Each. Yeah.
There's a party going on right here. A dedication.
All right. For the keynote speaker, Deputy Ambassador of Denmark to Kenya. I believe they're all named. Yes. All right. To those who want to capture this, you want them to move to this area. Yeah. Right here.
Let's all celebrate and have a good time. Yeah. We gonna celebrate and have a good time. It's time to come together.
It has to be archived. That's why we are making a big fuss about this. Apologies for that. But you tell me when you're content with the moment and then she can hand it. You give her the gift so that she can hand it to her. All right.
It's a celebration.
There you go. Asante sana. And I'd like to call on the Auditor General, CPA Nancy Gadongo, also receiving her gift. And to the Deputy Ambassador, you're getting a piece of cake. You have to get a piece of cake. That side to her left. Madam Gadongo, just to this side, just so that they capture it, and she hands it to you. Sorry about that. Yeah. You're on this side. You're on this side. Yes. All right. Okay. Are you content with that? And I'm calling on the Executive Director of Global Compact Network Kenya next to receive a gift. You'll stand to the left of Mrs. Musundi as you receive your gift. All right, as we capture that. And to be on standby, Abraham Nisoi, the Program Manager TI Kenya. Be on standby to come and give the votes of thanks. And now we also have for Uraya Trust Executive Director to also receive a gift. Dr. Oliver Waindi. Dr. Oliver Waindi, just stand by there. All right, Dr. Oliver Waindi getting his gift. And to Bwana Abrams Nisoy, I hope you're on standby to give the vote of thanks. Yes, just stand by with me here on stage. The Executive Director of Uraya Trust has gotten his gift from the chair lady. And now I'd like to call on Shabil. Bwana Shabil, kuna gift yako hapo. Napokea kutoka chair lady. It's not bribery. Shabil asks, is it bribery? It's not bribery. It's like si kitu kidogo upande huo, simama upande huo. It's a gift to appreciate you. There you go. Asante sana. Good stuff. We've captured it. You're good? All right. Thank you to Mheshimiwa Shabil, and thank you to the chairperson of the TI Kenya board, that is Mrs. Bernadette Musundi, for that. And now, ladies and gentlemen, if we could just lower the music and have the vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, just a few minutes of your time as we get the vote of thanks from the programs manager, TI Kenya. Let me just walk closer to them. This works always, 100% of the time. If we can just pay attention to the vote of thanks, to the vote of thanks, to the vote of thanks. Let's just pay attention to the vote of thanks, just to the vote of thanks. Let's pay attention to the vote of thanks from the programs manager of TI Kenya, Tafadhali. He's standing by there in a nice suit. Tafadhali tungoje, pay attention to the vote of thanks. Vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the vote of thanks. We have to be told thank you by our hosts. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the programs manager at TI Kenya, Abrams Nisoy. Asanteni.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to just thank you for joining us in a culmination of a process that has taken us almost 1 year. Mark Masai, you are right. So the development of this strategic plan that we just launched, you've been informed, began way back in March 2022. That is last year. And now we're almost in March 2023. Since then, and even before, every stakeholder, and I mean non-state actors, state actors, everyone, the diplomatic body, the CSOs, the communities as well, together with the media, who are represented here today, was always generous enough, because we knocked at your doors, you opened the doors for us, you gave us your views that culminated into that strategy, and most of you can attest to it. It's so beautiful. It has very rich information and very rich strategies that needs your support to make sure that we implement it to the latter. So as we hit the ground running in the implementation of this strategy, especially the strategic pillars that we mentioned, the three key ones, including the institutional development, and as we set boots on the ground to action for integrity, we are well aware that the battle ahead of us is not easy. And all of you have attested to it. Dr. Waindi, you mentioned it. It is not easy. So not for faint-hearted as well, but for those who are very courageous, as you said, patriotic as well, and individuals who love this country. And we want nothing more than to get rid of this corruption menace that threatens the fabric of our society. And our CPA Auditor General, Nancy, you mentioned that. So, but we are more energized. That is the beauty of it. Your faces, the glowing faces that are here, energizing our faces as well, so than never before. And because we know that we can rely on you as our allies in the battlefield, we will rely on you. That stakeholder engagement, we thank you, all of you, for the continued partnership. And we hope it will continue beyond the launch until the end of the next 6 years, when we can converge again to share the milestones that we will have achieved by that time. So we look forward to a day like this, that we shall say again, it is done, and we have won the battle on corruption, where we can stand at that horizon and see a Kenya that all of us want. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Bwana Abrams Misoi, the Programs Manager at Transparency International Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Masai. I've been your Master of Ceremony. A pleasure to be part of this strategic plan launch, and wishing everyone the best as we onboard it. If you want to see or get more material besides the launch, the material that was launched today, that's the Strategic Plan 2022 to 2028. It's available just outside at the exhibition area. Please pass by on your way out. We did see Wasanii Sanaa Group. They might be coming here to just wind it up on a high energy level, but in the meantime as well, we will have DJ Mark to continue. I'd like to appreciate every service provider that made this possible, including our host, the Serena Hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, have yourselves a beautiful afternoon and rest of the day.
I'm the founder organization that started way back in